Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.
You know,
Wow.
you played here so many times, and like one of my first jazz concerts that I saw you with was on the TV show, you know, at Branas in Ljubljana with
Whoa,
Ron Miles and Avent and Curtis.
really? Oh, wow. So
That's
like more than 20 years, 25 years ago or something.
Yeah, like 25 years. Yeah, I still remember. I still have like a videotape. Not able to play it
Wow.
anymore of that concert. Like if you did like an interview in between and stuff. It was so beautiful.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and that music, man, it was just like for me, you know, Egg Radio and all those 20 years and songs. I was like, man, you can play, you know, jazz like that. You don't need to. You can play a G chord, and I was like, man, okay, that's how you do it. Yeah, so thanks so much for all the music throughout the years and taking the time today.
Oh, thank you.
It's really appreciated. So anyway, I wanted to start our talk because, you know, I mentioned this concert 25 years ago, I think it was, and you had Ron Miles in the band, and I listened yesterday to Rainbow Sign
Oh, yeah.
by Ron, and it's such a beautiful record, you know, like some tunes like Rumor, and you play so amazingly. And I wanted to ask you, like, when does your story with Ron actually begin? I mean, I know you did like Women's Day, his record, and you did the quartet, but like, did you guys meet before? Or
Yeah, well, no, that was kind of early. Well, when you heard us, I think it was 1993 when we first met. I mean, I'd heard him before on a, that was so weird. He sent me a cassette.
Wow.
And but it was through my manager, so I didn't really talk to him, but I can still see the cassette, and it has his phone number written on it. And he was asking me to play on some recording, and I wasn't able to do it because of the schedule or something, but I listened to the cassette and I thought, wow, I really like the sound, you know, and then I put the cassette on my shelf, and then maybe a couple years later, I was in my car and something came on the radio, and it was a record by Fred Hess, a saxophone player.
Yeah.
And there was a trumpet solo, and I said, shit, I remember the sound. That has to be that same guy, right? And then I went home and I called the number on the cassette, and that was the first time we talked. And we talked for a long time, and it turned out that we went to the same high school in Denver. So all these connections, you know, and from that talk, then he asked me to come to Denver to do a gig, and that was the first gig was, I think it was 1993, and then ever since we've just played all the time. So.
Yeah, I love how you musically, you know, it's so different when he plays your music. I mean, of course, the music is different, and you play his music, you somehow gel together, but completely different musical contexts in a way. And how do you prepare for his music? Did you guys, like, for this record, rehearse a lot, or
well,
like,
not really. He always, I wish I could show you, but he has these big sheets. They're
man.
And it's every time I've done, you know, we did 2 records with that band, and then we did we do 2 or I think we did 2 records with just Brian and Ron. But every time we play, or if we do a gig, he always brings some more, like there's more. It's always something new, and it's always on these big pieces of paper, and I'm like, but somehow it always, I feel like I panic when I see it, like, how are we going to do this, but he's so, I don't know how to there's a lot of information in the written music, but he's not like, he's okay if you make a mistake or if it goes in a different direction or something. So he's very forgiving. So.
Yeah. But how does your energy change? Like, if this makes sense, like, him being a band leader and then you being a band leader, or is it like because you play together so much, or? Yeah,
it doesn't, I don't think it doesn't really feel different. It's just, as soon as you start playing, then it's just this connection happens.
Yeah. I feel that, but with the music when I'm listening, it's just like, so beautiful. I mean, of course, the band is always also incredible, so that kind of helps.
Yeah, that band is like amazing group of people there. So.
Yeah. I mean, you've been so busy, and like I just wanted to start this talk with two records I listened to a lot lately. 3 actually. The other one is also Tom Poem by Charles Lloyd.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, again, kind of a different thing than the one with Ron. Different musicians. And I also wanted to ask you, I don't know this one yet, like, where did you start playing? When did you start playing with Charles? Did you guys meet like already earlier, like the 80s or 90s, or?
Well, I met him, the first time I met him in person was in the 90s, but
oh wow, already, okay.
But what's amazing for me is when I was in high school, you probably heard this story, but
no, I didn't.
That's the first downbeat, I bought my first downbeat magazine when I'm just starting to learn about jazz, and Charles Lloyd was on the cover.
Oh, wow.
Very first downbeat I got 1968 or something, and then he's coming to town to play. So we got to go see Charles Lloyd,
Seriously, wow.
And I didn't even know really what he sounded like. I just thought he looked cool. He had a big afro and everything. And I just wanted to hear what it was. But I went to the concert and it was Charles with Keith Jarrett, who I never heard before. No one, it was early. Yeah. This was 1969. And Paul Motian was playing drums. It wasn't Jack DeJohnette, it was Paul Motian.
Oh, wow.
And Ron McClure was playing bass. And, like then to think, that was one of the first real concerts I went to see. Jazz concerts. And, I feel like I must be dreaming or something, because all these years later, to have played with Paul for all that time and then with Charles. And so we met in the 90s, I guess. And then, but it was much later. And he asked me to play on an album many years ago, but I couldn't. Again, it was some schedule thing and I couldn't do it. And then, oh boy, I don't know it's maybe 10 years ago when we started to play more often.
Yeah.
The first time we played was at the Montreal Jazz Festival. And,
oh, beautiful. Yeah.
And Jason was there too. So we did a concert, sort of duets, and like the 3 of us would play, or just me and Charles, or Charles and Jason. And that was a great way to start, because I knew Jason from before. And it's been amazing playing with him.
Yeah. Did you ever tell these guys, like, like Charles, this story?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was one of the times we played, I feel guilty, but this guy, we were playing in Chicago and someone wanted him to autograph some things, and he brought that downbeat, that old downbeat.
Amazing.
And Charles, and I said, man, that's that's the downbeat that I bought when I was in high school. And Charles said, well, okay, you can, and he took it from the guy and he gave it to me. So anyway, but he had a bunch of other stuff to sign, so it's probably okay.
Yeah.
I think I have it. Wait, let me just,
still have
I
it?
think
Oh,
I
yeah.
can show you the picture.
Oh, please.
Oh yeah. I don't know if you can
Oh,
you
well,
see
yeah,
this?
yeah, I see it. Oh man.
Oh yeah, so it's, this one is July 1967 was the,
Oh man. Yeah, it looked different then. That's so weird.
can you,
Wow.
oh, there he is.
Yeah. Oh man.
Anyway.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I know what you mean. I had like this opportunity, you know, to play with Paul McCandless years ago. We did some touring.
Oh yeah.
And you know, he was always one of the first records I got vinyl was Oregon. And then years later, you know, I got to record and tour with him. And for me, it was just like, you know, is this real? Like, yeah.
No, it's amazing how music, it just keeps coming in these circles, you know, you connect with somebody and then it comes back around. And
yeah, it's incredible. But speaking of connections, I also wanted to ask you about Valentine. I mean, you probably talked a lot about this record, but you know, I listened to it. I'm quite a big reader. Otherwise, I read like a novel a week or something. And I was in this Murakami phase now again. And you know Murakami probably, right?
Yeah, but just a little bit. Like that's somebody I really want to read more, you know.
Yeah, you should. It's like for me, your music sounds like Murakami to me because it's, you know, it has this calmness, but then something unexpected happens. And I was reading Murakami, like Kafka on the Shore this week, and listened to that record and kind of.
Oh wow, that's a big compliment, because I just recently read. It was maybe even at the beginning of the. What's the name? It has sheep. It's about.
Oh yeah. The Chase.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know which one. I mean, yeah.
And anyway, I want to read more of his stuff.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I kind of like connected you two, and but I wanted to ask you just about Valentine. You again wrote such beautiful compositions that have, you know, these beautiful melodies and stories happening. And just like, how did you approach this record when writing the music? Like, do you start with a sketch, or how is usually the process with you? Like,
well, that, you know, we had been playing before we recorded. We were in Europe. Yeah, we had a tour in Japan, the Village Vanguard. So we had been playing a lot. But then still, when we did the album, I brought a few things that we had never played before. So it's different with the trio because it's more like we're not really thinking so much. It's like if it's a larger group, then maybe I have to prepare more with organizing parts or something. But with the trio, it's more we just all know the music and then we just go, you know. So,
but just like, and what about your creative process and writing? You know, pre-corona, I started playing some solo guitar gigs. I never did that before. Like, and I played so many of your songs also. I don't know, like I played Family every time, you know, like it's from Nashville. And it has such a beautiful melody and all these songs. And do you usually start with a melody or with a chord progression, like, or depends from a tune to
Well,
tune?
it just kind of comes. It's hard to just like I have all these notebook. That was during this year. I just keep writing this stuff. It's like sort of just following my, trying not to stop writing. I just keep going and going and going. And then I go back and I try to find things that seem, sometimes like a whole song will just come out in one thing, but, and then there's a lot, like, and a lot of it's probably just not good, it's terrible or whatever, but that's what I've learned, to not, when you're writing, it's not good to decide then whether it's good or bad. It's better to just keep writing it down, and then I try to figure out later if I like it.
To come back and then stretch it, or
and then maybe it grow, like, it's weird. They are like plants or something. They just keep growing branches, and every time that's what also, as I'm getting older, what's been amazing, sometimes I'll go back to some tune that I wrote 20 years ago and I look at it again and it's like, what is, like, I see things that I didn't understand even when I wrote it in the beginning, or it'll start suggesting other things, or I'll find other ways of playing it that I didn't realize. Or that's kind of one good thing about getting old, I guess.
No, but for me, at least for me, like some of the songs you wrote, like Strange Meeting and Rambler or Egg Radio, they sound like standards almost to me now, like maybe because I play them so much, but I don't know, they make so much sense when I play them, even though they're maybe not like standard jazz progressions or whatever, but like, I internalize them so much. It's like, oh yeah, okay, Rambler, cool. Let's do it.
Well, yeah, that's a thing. Also, to learn it, I realize sometimes I don't know my own music as well as I know like a standard song that I've played thousands of times, and I realize I better practice my own music too, to get to that point where it's really deep down inside,
Yeah, I guess, that's an important one. But yeah, this trio with Thomas and Rudy, and especially, Thomas is such a presence, man, like especially with you two guys. It's, you did those duo records, and it's just, your connection is incredible. And I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about Thomas, like your musical connection? I think he's always in the right place, like.
No, it feels like with him, I've said this before too, it almost feels like he travels in time. He goes ahead of where you are, and he knows, like, it's almost like I can just just go anywhere, and he's just right. He already knew that I was going to go there or something. Or if I make a mistake, he'll make the same mistake or whatever, he'll be just it almost, I can almost feel it in my hands, the connection, it's like a physical, you feel like he's with you all the time.
So. Do you remember the first gig you played with him? Like, when was that?
Well, it was a strange situation that's where I knew, wow. Well, the first time we played was a rehearsal for Joey Barron.
Oh yeah.
It was where Joey did an album with Ron Carter and Arthur Blythe.
Oh yeah, shit, yeah. Oh man, that's what.
And so Joey he wanted to rehearse the music before Ron got there. So someone said, yeah, there's this guy named Thomas. He was really young. I think he was still a student maybe. And he came and he just played Ron Carter's parts, and I thought, wow, you know, he sounded great, but it wasn't like Thomas doing his thing, you know. He was really playing the part, but it was perfect, you know, it was great. And then, so that's how we met. And then, I don't know, a couple of years later, there was Kenny Wollesen, the drummer, had this crazy, he got some free time in this big studio. I forget the name of the studio. It was one of the biggest studios in New York, like a giant room. And he had all these people in there, like just all kinds of instruments. There were like rappers, there was trombone players, there was Steve Cardenas was there, another guitar player. Oh, wow. Butch Morris was there doing the conduction thing. I can't remember. There was just, the whole place was filled with people, and it was sort of, Thomas was there, and there was another bass player, and you know, it's just a lot of like confusion. And I remember just, I'm sort of I just hear this one note just ping, and I look over and it was Thomas just ping. He just found the perfect little space in all this dense music, and he has that way of just finding the right spots all the time. But that was just one note, really. And then then we played with Jakob Bro, and actually Paul, where I really felt like we really connected was it was Paul Motian's last album with Petra Hayden, and where we just played mostly standard songs, and that's where I really felt the Thomas connection thing. It was pretty much after that we started playing a lot.
He's such a player. I've seen him live in so many different contexts, you know, playing with you, or then on the other hand, he's playing with Dan Weiss, you know, the drummer, or Matt Mitchell, like the most difficult 16-page structures, odd meters, and he's there, and it's just like, man, this is the same guy, you know. It's like really incredible, such a musical range, I guess. So
he's amazing,
so beautiful. But the one thing that I wanted to ask you also is, you know, through this lockdown period, I saw you've done this solo kind of stream concerts, and already before, of course, you've done a lot of solo work. But my question is, like, how do you approach a solo guitar performance, or even playing? Because with you, it sounds so. You know, I saw that one at the Red Sofa Concerts Festival, something that in December you did. You played Burt Bacharach and Monk and Misteriosa and all this stuff. And when I listen to you, it sounds so simple in a way, yet it's not. When you know what I mean. But how is your way of thinking when playing a solo? In what mindset do you put yourself in?
That's been a challenge. It's difficult. I think I've gotten more comfortable. You know, when I first did it, it was because still for me, music, playing with other people, that's the whole really what I want to be doing. But over the years, I slowly got more and more comfortable. I think the hardest thing for me is to just not panic when there's space. You know, you play something and you feel like you have to, I have to fill this in, or I have to play a bass note, or I have to do something. And just to be comfortable with letting the time go by and let the ideas just sit there alone with nothing. That's hard to get, for me, to get comfortable that way. But when I do, then I feel like I'm okay to play. Then the space becomes almost like another instrument or something. And I can start breathing and relaxing, and but it's so different from when, even if there's just one other person, there's always a conversation, there's always something to react to. But when you're alone, it's like you say something, like speaking, like giving a speech. Like I can't stand up in front of people and just start giving it. It doesn't feel comfortable. I've never felt comfortable with that. But so it's like when you play an idea, okay, then what's the next idea? You have to generate it all yourself.
Is there like a stupid question, maybe like a fear factor when you're playing solo? I mean, like,
well, more than, I've always been lucky with when I play with other people, usually that's when I'm not afraid, really. But solo, it can be more challenging. Not at the beginning, definitely. Now it's not quite as much as before, I guess.
Yeah, because like the solo guitar heritage, like for me, it was scary because you had like, you put on just Joe Pass Virtuoso, for instance, records, and then I'm like, man, I don't know how to do that, just like and
well, that'll make me scared then.
or Ben Munder with some crazy right hand 15, 16 picking, and he's playing 5 or 7 over it, and I'm like, man, okay, so that's the scary part. It's like, I guess, play solo piano for piano players. You have like Art Tatum or whoever before your Monk or Cecil Taylor, and that's why I'm interested in this like you approaching it, because it seems so effortless now when I listen to you when you do that. And
no, there's effort, that's for sure. But
but
then you can't be thinking about those things, you have to if you really just get down into the music, then the music will just carry you away, I think.
Is this something you talked with? I know when you started with jazz, you studied with Jim Hall, right?
I had.
And what was Jim like? Did you guys talk about this also, like leaving space and stuff like that? Like,
well, maybe. I mean, he talked about maybe not exactly. He talked about like phrasing things, like breathing, sort of. He talked a lot about taking little bits of, like, trying to develop an idea over, like he was talking. I only had 8 lessons with him, but it was like that week. That was another time. It was so incredible. Sonny Rollins was playing at the Village Vanguard that week, the first time I took a lesson with Jim.
Oh, wow.
And so he was talking about Sonny Rollins, the way Sonny would take a small little fragment and keep developing it over a long time throughout a solo. And so then I go to the Vanguard and I hear Sonny Rollins, and it was like another magic time. But then he also talked about, he had me play these Bach violin sonatas. And so the first week I went home and I learned the thing, and it's all eighth notes, right? And I come back and just and played it perfect, right? But he said, well, maybe why don't you look and see if you can find try to find the phrases, and you can slow down and speed up. And he had me try to find places where it felt like there was to be a breath. And that was a huge thing for me there. I was just playing all the notes like a typewriter, just
Yeah.
you know. And suddenly, by thinking about phrasing, it sort of almost connects more with the way your body breathes and stuff. So that was a big thing with him.
Yeah. Did you guys ever talk about music then? Like when you did Hemispheres, or when you played together, like, or did you usually just like start playing and it happened? Or
I guess it was more just playing. Yeah. Then it was more. Yeah, and then I couldn't believe I was, again, I was just a kid taking lessons. And then some years later, I got to do gigs with him. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's you played on. I think you're on some of my favorite records of all time. I mean, was some of my favorite musicians, and I also wanted to ask you this because I went through my collection of CDs and where you're on, and you're on so many ECM records. You also did.
Oh, yeah.
And I've done these talks. I've done like beautiful talk with Arild Andersen as well.
Oh, yeah.
And you kind of started with him also, and but I wanted to ask you this because how did your story with Manfred begin with ECM? I know you did like Eberhard's Fluid Russell. That was one of the first
that
ones.
was where I first met him, and that was because of my teacher at Berkeley, Mike Gibbs.
Oh yeah,
Michael Gibbs, who's a composer, arranger, who I just talked to him yesterday,
Oh really?
But,
oh wow, man.
Yeah, we're gonna do a project in Italy at the end of the year. And
oh wow.
But I was in his student band at Berkeley, and then I went to Europe. I lived in Belgium for a year, and soon after I got to Europe, Mike had a tour in England, and he asked me to play. Like, wow. And it was incredible. Like, wow, this is a real professional job, and in the band that's where I met Kenny Wheeler, and Eberhard Weber was in the band, and Charlie Mariano, and it was like all these guys. I couldn't believe it. And during that tour, Eberhard had this recording coming soon after, and he asked me to play. So that was like, wow, this is 1978.
Yeah, wow.
And I was so intimidated, terrified. I don't know how I made it through that record. I didn't even know. I'd never even checked into a hotel before. I didn't know what you were supposed to do. I didn't bring any of my pedals or I didn't have many pedals anyway, but I just brought my guitar and took a train to Stuttgart, and then anyway, but I don't think I made much of an impression with Manfred. That's where I first met Manfred. And then I went back to New York, and then I started playing with Paul Motian, blah, blah, blah. And then somehow Arild, I don't know how that happened either. Arild called me, who I didn't know, he must have heard something. I'd been rehearsing with Paul Motian for almost a year or something, or I don't know, half a year, quite a while. And then I get this message from Arild, do you want to come to this festival? And so I went there, and then suddenly Manfred called me from there and said he wanted to do a solo record. And and then Eberhard, I think Eberhard had, maybe I sent a tape to Eberhard or something of things that I've been working on, and somehow they got excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, because you were like, you've done the Garbarek records also, which are beautiful, those patent prints.
Yeah.
And they're so beautiful.
And that was right. That was crazy because I went the first album with Paul, the very first tour I did with Paul, after rehearsed all year, and then we went to Europe and did this long tour, and then we recorded that Psalm album.
Yeah, man, yeah, I love
in
that.
Germany, and then from Germany I flew to Oslo and met Jan and did past Prince. So it was just suddenly like, wow, it's like all this stuff started happening so fast.
Yeah. Like, do you remember the tours that you did, like with Paul, those early ones? Like,
Oh, yeah.
or even before, how was that like for you, the first time touring in Europe back then?
Yeah, it was, I mean, I had lived there. I
Yeah.
was mainly in Belgium, you know, so I hadn't, and then I came once somewhere with Eberhard. We did a duet tour where he drove everywhere. It wasn't long. We played in Vienna and some places in Germany and stuff, but I hadn't really had much experience until with Paul was really the beginning of real touring, you know.
Yeah.
It seemed like it started to happen pretty quick. And then with Jan, so then I was playing with Paul and Jan, and it got real busy there for a while.
Yeah, like, but like you know, nowadays when you tour, it's so easy in Europe because of, I mean, I guess now it's more flying. Before it was
that's
trains,
at the beginning. We would always take trains or sometimes van or something, but then in the last few years it seems like it's more planes, which I'm not so crazy about.
Yeah, but was it more like, you know, and there were all these currencies and still Eastern Bloc and borders.
Oh yeah,
there was still Yugoslavia when I
first time I came to Slovenia, you know, Ljubljana, that was with Paul too.
Oh really? Oh,
I don't know what year that was, like early 80s or something we came.
Yeah. Is it like romantic for you to think about those touring times, or was it like?
Yeah, no, it's amazing when I think incredible stuff happened back then.
Yeah,
just got to meet so many people, and
yeah,
it's amazing.
And through that time, like, so basically it was through Manfred and Arild that you decided to do the solo record in line.
Yeah, I mean, Manfred asked me to do a solo thing, and actually it was originally supposed to be just solo, and then he thought it wasn't, I didn't really finish it first, so then I was going to go see Arild, and we thought, well, maybe we should have Arild come, and so it's sort of half duo with Arild and half solo.
Yeah. But no, I'm leading to Rambler, because, you know, Rambler for me is, like I said, one of the best guitar records in history, because the music and the band is so incredible. But I wanted to ask you about the Rambler band, because was that like a working band for you, or did you guys then just?
No, I wish I could have. No, it was only for that album, and we never did any gigs.
Seriously?
I mean, for me, that was these guys, you know, they're like big heroes.
Yeah.
And I just didn't even think, I should have maybe tried, you know, I just didn't think that I could even do a gig. It was just for the record, and thinking back, I wish I had more courage, and I would have, man, if we could have done a gig with that band, it would have been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny is for me, you know, one of the best players ever, composers.
Yeah.
And how was your story with Kenny, actually?
Well, I actually met him on that
before,
with that Mike Gibbs tour. And, you know, again, I knew him from, I was like, first time I heard him was when he was playing with Anthony Braxton.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
With Dave Holland and Barry Altschul. And I saw him in Boston in, I don't know what year that was, early 70s or something. And And it was like, wow, who is this guy? And then a few years later, that I guess the thing that New High record with Keith, that was like, oh my God.
I love that one, yeah.
Everybody was flipping out over that record.
That's incredible, yeah.
And he was such a beautiful person. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a player. I mean, seemed so humble musically also in a way. Again, leaving space and all that. And
yeah.
And did he like, I wanted to ask you this already before, like, who were like compositionally the guys who influenced you? Like, was Kenny among them, or like Paul?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I listened to that a lot, but like Mike Gibbs was huge for like those early Gary Burton albums.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the music was written by Mike Gibbs, and there's something about the harmonies there and just the way of melody, harmony stuff. I took a lot from that,
Yeah.
So
yeah, because you have such a variety when to your compositions, and you want to hear so many influences. That's why I'm wondering where all they come from. I guess.
I mean, and then not that I even understand it. It gets so like, wow, what is going on? But all the Miles stuff, that like the 60s Miles things, all the Wayne Shorter things, that the sound of those harmonies and the way the band plays together. I mean, that's pretty. Oh, there's so many things. I don't know. Ornette.
Sure. Sure.
And then Monk is maybe kind of this
epitome of.
I still look to him like, wow, that's it never ends how amazing it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you put on Monk, and it's I know what you mean.
I just always find something, but that's true with all these people I mentioned, I think.
Or Sonny,
Sonny too. It's like, whoa, I can't. It just never ends what you discover that they've done or they do.
Yeah, it's such a incredible wealth of playing, and but did you from these guys? When I listen to your bands, like one of the first records I bought from you was the live record with Kermit and Joey. And you guys seem to achieve that chemistry also. An amazing chemistry with that trio. I mean, especially with Joey on drums, you sounded so beautiful. And I wanted to ask you, like, how did you start gelling? How was your process of this New York downtown scene in a way? Because you did like ECM records, which are kind of ECM world, but then at the same time you were part of the New York, this downtown scene.
I mean, it was all happening at the same time. I wasn't thinking of one thing being different than the other,
Yeah.
Sometimes what the surroundings might change or who I'm with would change, but I didn't really change so much what I did, or I was just put myself in these different. That's what's so great about music, to get the chance to be in all these different circumstances. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And when did you start playing with Joey? Actually, like, was that mid '80s, like at the same time, like as with Paul, or a little bit later?
A little bit after Paul. So Joey moved. He was in California, and then he moved to New York. And I don't remember what year. It had to be like it was early 80s, maybe 83 or something like that. And he had been in Boston. There was a lot of my friends knew him everybody was saying, "Oh, Joey's coming back," or "Joey's coming to town," and so it just almost as soon as he got to New York, we met and we started playing, like actually just duo. We would play.
Really? Oh wow.
I'd go to his apartment and we just would play, like just free playing. And he's one of those guys that just, we connected so strong just from the very beginning, you know?
Yeah. And when did Kermit then come into the game? Like at the same time?
Kermit was I went to school with Kermit in Berkeley.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
We were like roommates. And then when I went to Europe, when I moved to Belgium, this is 1978, was with Kermit.
Oh, okay.
So we went, that was way far back. So
yeah, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, we were in school, and then that, really my first band with Kermit and Joey and Hank. That was
yeah, with Hank. Yeah.
And I'd met Hank also in school too. So.
Oh, so all these connections are really early then. Yeah.
Yeah, way back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, like 45 years or however long that is.
yeah, no, sure. It's amazing. Yeah, this is so much stuff that you've done, and it's. I wanted to ask you just also one more thing is like, I have you on 2 records with Paul Bley, and Paul is for me one of my favorite players. And
oh yeah,
and John Sermon there, another one of the greats. Like, how did you start? How does your story with Paul begin, with Paul Bley actually, and how did?
Well, a lot of that I think is through Paul Motian again. Like that's how I met so many. That's how I met Charlie Hayden. That's how I met Lee Konitz, and yeah, Paul Bley. I think he would come to see Paul play, but yeah, the first time we played was on the first ECM record with John Sermon, and that was incredible that we did that. We did that recording, and then we had some compositions that we played, and it was great. Then later in the year, we did this long tour. And on that tour, we never used there was no written music at all. We just, from the very first gig, I think it was like 5 weeks long. We just it was all completely improvised, the whole tour. And at the end of that tour, we did the second album.
The quartet.
And that second album is basically just free, it's just so. Yeah, that was incredible to get to play with those guys like that, during all that time.
Yeah, I mean, did you? I mean, of course you knew, but you never played with John Sermon, for instance, before that, right?
Oh, not really. But he did when I did the Inline record.
Yeah.
There was some song that I don't know what happened. He reminded me. He came into the studio when I was doing that Inline, and Manfred wanted him to overdub something on something. And
seriously,
I think we tried something, but it didn't work or something. But I think that's where I first met him. Can't remember if I met. Basically, it was pretty much on that Paul Bley record where we connected.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's like that. I just wanted to ask you one more or less thing is like, when I look at the 80s with you, I've did this talk with Randy Brecker, and we talked about the 70s, like how his schedule probably looked like, because he did like the Brecker Brothers and did like Bruce Springsteen and Johnny Mitchell or whatever. He did like 6 zillion records in 2 years.
Yeah.
And the same I feel about you, like creatively, you were present in so many different areas. yet maintained it so fresh. But one group I wanted to ask you about also is the Bass Desires. And
Oh yeah.
Mark Johnson, your connection with guitarists, we mentioned Jim Hall and before, but you also have, with Schofield or Matheny or with whoever,
Yeah.
you have this amazing ability to blend together. And how did you get involved with the Bass Desires with Mark Johnson and Peter? It's such a killer group.
Yeah, that was actually Mark. I met the very first time I played with Paul Motian was a rehearsal was with Mark. It was Paul and Mark and me trio.
Really? Oh man.
And we had a few rehearsals like that. And then Mark, he got a gig with Stan Getz or something. So then he left, and then things started changing around. But that's where I met Mark first. And then, so how many, oh boy. We must have done some jam sessions and stuff like that. We got to know each other more. And then some years later, he had that idea to put that group together. So,
did you meet?
And I'd been,
Schofield
I had
before?
known John.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we had some, and I can't remember exactly how, because I was a fan of his. I mean, he had been in Boston before I was. He left when I came to Boston. He had just left. But then when I came to New York, I met him pretty early. And I went to his house and we played some tunes or something.
Oh, beautiful.
I can't remember how he knew of me.
Yeah.
And so we knew each other a little bit anyway when Mark, and I didn't know Peter at all then. I think that was when I first met Peter. So.
Yeah, so beautiful. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks so much, Bill, for sharing some of this.
Well, no, thank you.
I mean,
good talking.
I don't want to waste more of your time. It's just like, you've done so much work, so I guess I could ask you. I could ask you just all these questions. So, how did you start playing with that? And so it's yeah.
But I hope I get to see you over there sometime soon. So.
Yeah, please. If you're in Europe, I will definitely come check you out. If you're,
I don't know where I think we're playing in Prague.
Oh, wow. Who are you with?
I don't know about. This is with Rudy and Thomas. Trio.
Oh man, wow! I would love to.
So
see
it'll be the end of July. So
okay,
but I'm not sure exactly where. I know we're playing in Italy, and Prague is in. How far is Prague from where you are? That's still far.
That's like 6 hours. Yeah. Are you in Holland by any chance? I'll check your schedule.
Not that I know.
Okay, I might be in Holland then, actually. Yeah. Oh, cool. I'll check you out. Cool. I hope I catch you guys. Would be so amazing.
Yeah. And then I'm supposed to come back again in October, so maybe who knows?
Yeah, definitely. I will check you out. Would be nice to see you guys play. I haven't seen this trio live yet, so it's on a bucket list to do so to see. Definitely. So,
cool.
Bill, thank you so much for taking the time, and I really appreciate it.
Talking to you.
Thank you, and stay creative and
all right.
Always, so.
Yeah, you too. Stay safe, and
you too.
See you later.
Yes.
Bye.
Ciao.
Dr. Jazz.